Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Welcome to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates. And Mark, it's always good to be with you.
Ron, always happy to be here with you as well. Looking forward to another great show.
Got a lot of interesting things to talk about today, and we're going to start with a conversation about how you can grade yourself and how well you're doing. But I just wanted to give everybody the phone number out there. It's so important to write down this number, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. You can call or text and get in touch with Mark's office. And one more time, 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman, of course, is certified financial planner professional, as we've talked about so many times, and that means a lot. That means that he is well prepared to certainly help you in your preparations for retirement. Let's talk about grading yourself. You can grade your own financial competency by seeing how many of these questions that you might be able to answer. And Mark, maybe you can explain why it's so important to know the answer to each one of these questions. First of all, I would say this to anybody. Do you know how much you have? That is something that you really need to know.
Well, I think most people maybe have an idea as far as what they have, but the problem is people have things spread out. You know, they might have some money in a couple checking accounts, maybe some savings. Maybe they have a money market that they haven't looked at in a while. You know, maybe they have some old 401ks, a current 401k, some IRAs or Roths. You know, all these different accounts that kind of get spread out. And we meet with a lot of people and we see people that have stuff everywhere. And it comes to a point where it makes a lot of sense to consolidate. But it's hard to get a clear picture of exactly what you have unless you're putting it all together like into Quicken or something like that. But a lot of people just have so many things in different places that they don't look at everything as one. And it's unfortunate because it is important to put everything together and see what you have exactly to work with.
Mark, I'm guessing that this second question here is one that most people might have a little more problem with, and that is knowing how much you spend. A lot of people can't really give you any kind of an idea on that one.
You know, it always amazes me. So we through our planning process, what we do is we will send out a budget worksheet, which basically gives you an idea as far as you fill it out and gives you an idea as far as how much money you might be spending, whether you're already retired or still working, and gives us really a glimpse into what you might be spending. And for a lot of people, this is a difficult exercise. There are some that keep spreadsheets and know exactly what they're spending, and kudos to you if you're one of those people. But I would say the vast majority of people have no clue what they're spending. And of course, it's hard to forecast in the future if you're going to run out of money or not, or how much you might need if we don't know what you're spending. And I always tell people, we're not here to judge on what you're spending your money on. We're just trying to get an idea of what you're spending per month or per year, et cetera. And without that number, we can't really, move forward as far as trying to figure out what you're, if you're going to be okay or not.
This is Ron Stutz talking with Mark Silverman, of course, on Saving with Silverman. And we're talking today about how you might be able to grade yourself. And Mark, we've talked about this so many times on this radio show. Most people have no idea how much risk they have in the portfolio, and that is a mistake that a lot of people make, I'm sure, before they come to see you.
Sure. And, risk is a tough one, too, because, risk is only a problem when the markets go down. So February was obviously a very volatile month. It was probably one of the worst months we've had in a certain number of years. And so if you think about those sorts of things, it's important that we really try to focus on how much risk you are comfortable taking and how much risk you're actually taking. So through our process, we actually have software we can, kind of figure out what risk number you're at, and then actually plug in your investment holdings without moving assets and figure out how much risk you're currently taking, where we can actually back test and show you, hey, you've indicated that this is where you are comfortable as far as risk is concerned. Here's how much risk you're actually taking. And what we're finding, Ron, is about 80% of the time, people are taking more risk than they've indicated they're comfortable taking. So what's so important is making sure you're taking the appropriate amount of risk at all times. And that needs to be adjusted because as people get older, get closer to retirement and certainly into retirement, they tend to become a little bit more conservative. Not in all cases, but a lot of times that's really what happens.
Mark, similarly, a lot of people have no idea how much they're paying in fees, and that can be a real shocker when they come in and sit down in your office and they find out how high the fees are in their portfolio.
Yeah, and it's not always what you pay, but it's what you get. Not what it costs, but what it's worth, as we like to say. But you should have an idea as far as what you're paying in fees. And I've said this before, a lot of people will spend more time trying to save money when they're at the grocery store than they will trying to figure out how much they're paying in fees to their advisor. And I'm not saying your advisor should be working for free. We certainly don't. But you should feel that you get value for what you're paying. The problem is in our industry, there's a lot of things that have a lot of hidden fees and expenses. And so if you're working with an advisor that's not transparent, a lot of those fees are hidden into those returns. But those are fees that you are paying. So it's important that you understand those fees that you're paying. Another culprit is, retirement plans, 401ks, 403bs, those sorts of things have a lot of administrative costs and fees that a lot of people aren't aware of. And that's why it's important once you get out of or retire or leave a job that you move that money into a self-directed IRA so you can cut down a lot of those fees that you're paying that you may not be aware of.
We've talked so many times about how after you retire, that's, you could call that permanent unemployment. And the important thing is to know how much income streams, how your income streams are going to look and how much you will have coming in on a regular basis that you can count on.
Yeah, what we do is we look and see what most people are doing when they're working is what they're in, what we call is a accumulation phase. You're working, saving, putting money away. Then when you retire, you're moving into what we call a distribution phase. So for a lot of people, they're going to have Social Security. That's going to be an income source they can count on. And obviously, there's some debate on that depending on that conversation. We won't go there, though. And then you can also look at if they have a pension. If you're lucky enough to have a pension, we can include that. But how do you turn those assets that you saved, your savings, your investment accounts, retirements, 401ks, et cetera, into income that's going to last you? And there's different ways of doing that. But it's important that you have a strategy to make sure that you're going to have that income every month coming in to pay the bills for the things that you want to do and need to do in your retirement. So it's really looking at all these different things that most people haven't spent a lot of time doing, but you really need to. It's that important.
Mark, I'm guessing that a lot of listeners to today's show, whether they be in Tucson or Oro Valley or wherever they are today, might have a lot of these questions about their own portfolios and about how they are doing as far as saving for retirement is concerned. What do you have to offer those folks who go ahead and place the phone call and come in for a conversation in your office? Sure.
Well, whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process we call the financial physical. I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. And I'll repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we're going to discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets, and we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to me with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601 is the number to call or text, as Mark said. 520-333-7601. Go ahead and call or text to that number right now. Leave your contact information. You don't have to talk to anybody at this moment. You don't have to have all your financial matters in front of you. Just you can arrange a time to come in at no obligation and no cost for this conversation with Mark Silverman. He won't pass you off on to anybody else either. He is the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates, and when you come in, you'll be talking to Mark Silverman himself. 520-333-7601. Call or text, and then come in and have a talk about these things. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman. You're listening to Saving with Silverman, and we'll have more coming up in just a moment.
If you've ever asked yourself what a well-balanced financial portfolio looks like, keep listening to Saving with Silverman, and you'll find out.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman, starring Mark Silverman. Mark's on the radio every week talking about all things retirement related. And you've come to the right place if you find yourself in the red zone, if you are anywhere near retiring, if you're just starting to think about it. You may need to make a few changes in the way you save your money, the way you have your money invested. And Mark Silverman is the guy to come to if you want a second opinion, even if you're working with another advisor. Give a call to Mark Silverman's office, and that number is 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. You can call, leave a voicemail, or if you're more comfortable texting, you can certainly do that as well. Just leave your contact information, and a member of Mark's team will get back with you. You can arrange a time to come in for a conversation, and you'll be having a conversation with no pressure, no obligation, no cost with Mark Silverman himself in Tucson. SavingWithSilverman.com is the website if you want to check it out. That is SavingWithSilverman.com. Mark, one of the things that gets talked about more than just about anything else, or certainly a lot, is variable annuities. Everybody, wants to know about variable annuities, and we rarely say anything nice about variable annuities on this show. And why is that?
Well, Ron, I've been doing this over 20 years now, and I've never sold a variable annuity, and I've never seen a person that's bought a variable annuity, in my experience, that's benefited more than the person selling the annuity. The problem is variable annuities are one of the most expensive investment vehicles you could put your money into. The average fees on a variable annuity all in are somewhere between 2.5% to 4% per year. And that's whether you make money or not. And it just doesn't make any sense. And let me kind of back up as far as what a variable annuity is. What it really is mutual funds, that they call them sub-accounts. And we've all talked about that mutual funds have a lot of hidden fees and expenses. And then they wrap a layer of insurance around it with riders, expenses, and mortality and other different charges that are in there. So it gets very, very expensive. They do offer some guarantees, but what we find is a lot of times those guarantees aren't as great as you think they might be. The other problem is you're kind of locked into these products for a certain number of years. So it's important that you understand that as well and really understand what you're getting. I'm of the belief that if you want to be in the market, be in the market. Don't use an annuity to do that. And so that's just kind of my 2 cents.
Mark, if there are other options available that would often be a better fit, why are there so many people out there who are invested in variable annuities?
Well, unfortunately, and I come from the bank and brokerage side, that's where I started my career. And variable annuities are typically sold by, banks, brokerage firms, stockbrokers, et cetera. And the reason being is if I were, as an advisor, were to sell you an XYZ mutual fund, I make a certain fee. If I sell you XYZ mutual fund or sub-account inside a variable annuity, I make a higher fee. So unfortunately, a lot of these are sold because the advisor makes more money selling these than they would doing something different.
Mark, how often do you find people who don't even realize that they're invested in a variable annuity?
We come across, I'd say probably about a third of the people I meet with have some sort of variable annuity. Most people have an idea of what they have, but they don't really understand it very well. And when I do spend the time, and sometimes we'll even call the company and go through it and ask questions that they didn't even know that they could ask or even know that they should ask. A lot of times they say, I had no idea. I would never have bought this if I knew it. And I said, of course you didn't, because if it was explained to you this way, you probably never would have bought it. So, and I'm not saying the advisors selling them are doing anything wrong, but a lot of times they don't don't give you the full disclosure and tell you everything about it. They kind of tell you just the pros, but don't disclose the cons, and that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. If you think all the things that Mark Silverman talks about are just, examples of good common sense, if you'd like to have a conversation with Mark in his office about your individual situation, 520-333-7601 is your number to call, or you can text if you prefer to do that, 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Mark Silverman. You can actually come into Mark's office and have a very pleasant, no pressure, no cost conversation. Silverman and Associates, located in Tucson, but folks coming in from all over southern Arizona. Again, that number is 520-333-7601. We're talking about variable annuities. How can somebody tell exactly what type of annuity they have, how much they're paying in fees, and any other information that they should know but often don't?
Well, if you have an annuity and you notice the value going up and down, or you see a list of what they call sub-accounts, it looks like mutual funds, then you probably have a variable annuity. It should say on the statement variable annuity or VA, those sorts of things. As far as fees, those are very, very difficult. The easiest way to do it, or the best way to do it, is actually call the company, and you want to make sure that you know what questions you're asking. You got to ask them what the fees are, including writers, expenses, what the expense ratios are on the sub-accounts that you're in. There's ways to do it, and we know how to do those. In fact, when we have clients come into the office, a lot of times we'll reach out with the client on the phone and ask those sorts of questions so they have an idea exactly how much they're spending. But it's important, because what we find is a lot of insurance companies that offer these don't disclose everything. Once, they'll say, what are the fees? And they'll kind of give you a range. And then you'll say, well, what about these other fees? Well, I didn't include those, specifically the investment expenses of the sub-accounts. A lot of times they won't include those unless you ask specifically, which is, I'm sure, intentional. So the best way to do it is to call, but you've got to know which questions to ask.
You're listening to Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. And Mark, I know that there are some people out there right now listening to the show and just realizing that, hey, I might have a variable annuity. I'm not sure. And some other folks who may realize that, yes, indeed, they do have a variable annuity, but they want to get out of it. If you have a variable annuity that you'd like to escape from, can you usually do that, or are you just stuck with it?
Yes and no. It depends on how long you've had it. It depends on the company that issued it. There's some things that you need to consider, and that's something we can help you with. We're happy to go through that. The other thing you want to think of, which we didn't discuss, is, if you do have a gain and you were to just cash it out, for example, you could have some stiff tax consequences. So you don't want to make sure that you understand that as well. So the best bet is to work with somebody qualified who knows and can figure out what the surrender schedule is, what your fees are, knows what questions to ask, and is willing to look and see what the tax implications are if you were to get out of it. So there's more to it than just calling and cashing it out. You want to have some certain questions answered, but everybody's situation is different. It's something that you'd like us to do. We're happy to go through that with you. Just give us a call, and we can certainly walk you through that process.
There are a lot of people out there right now who have all these questions about their variable annuities, or, they may think that they have variable annuities. Maybe they don't, but they want to get some answers to some questions, and maybe some that we haven't even talked about here. What happens when they call your office and arrange a time to come in?
Well, just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're a do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your opportunity to go through this process we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? We just talked about variable annuities. We can help you with that. If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who've saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
And the number is 520-333-7601. You can call that number, or you can send a text to that number, 520-333-7601. Again, 520-333-7601. So important to come in for a conversation, because Mark can give you good generic advice on the radio all day, but can't really tailor it to your specific situation. And everybody's situation is different. There is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to retirement planning. So why not call this number or text to this number and arrange a time to come in? 520-333-7601. My name is Ron Stutz, and I am lucky enough to spend a little time with Mark Silverman each week on this show. And this is Saving with Silverman. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll have more coming up in just a moment.
Mark Silverman is a Tucson native, and his firm is right here in town. That means he's always accessible to you. Start your relationship with Mark and his team today. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, the founder and managing member of Silverman & Associates. If you'd like to find out more about Mark Silverman and Silverman & Associates, all you got to do is go to savingwithsilverman.com. Savingwithsilverman.com, great website. Will tell you all you need to know and certainly give you the contact information. But the most immediate way to get in touch and to arrange a time to come in is 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call or text. Mark Silverman has the financial physical available for no cost and no pressure whatsoever. No obligation. We have some great questions that come in every week on the request line, and today, Mark, we have a question from Tom in Oro Valley. We get a lot of questions from Oro Valley. Tom says, we have a lot of big travel plans once we retire, including destinations on all 7 continents. Do we need to plan on having even more income in retirement than we have right now?
Well, Tom, that's a excellent question, and good for you guys. If you can do it, do it. That's my motto. But you probably do. You know, what I tell people is a lot of people end up spending about the same amount of money in retirement that they spend in their working careers. They say you need 70 to 80%, and I think in some cases that does happen. But however, we do have clients that actually spend more in retirement than they do when they were working. And it sounds to me, if you're going to be doing, lots of travel, and like I said, good for you guys, you may need more income. So it's a good idea to kind of figure out when you're going to be taking those trips, how much you might spend, so we can estimate what your budget would be in retirement for those years, and really look at your goals and objectives and making sure that you have enough money to do everything that it is that you want to do. And that's, again, the key to why we feel strongly about financial planning and why it makes so much sense. But if you have all these different things, it's important that you have them all laid out so we can see exactly what can be accomplished and what can't.
Mark, you're so right. I mean, Tom is a very fortunate person, and it sounds like he's going to go all over the world, and it sounds like a whole lot of fun. Got another question here from Leo in Tucson, and Leo says, is it wise to have a trust as part of a financial and estate plan? It seems that a lot of people I know have one.
Well, Leo, it's a great question. I'm not an attorney. We work with a lot of estate planning attorneys. In fact, I'm a member of the Southern Arizona Estate Planning Council. And I think, having a trust, a living trust, whatever it might be, can work in a lot of cases. Do I think everybody needs one? No. But then again, I'm not an attorney, as I said earlier. So it just depends on what it is you're looking to accomplish. What's the purpose of, just because your friend has something, does that mean you need it? Maybe, maybe not. You need to look and see what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish and what you think the trust will do for you. In some cases, a lot of the things that you think you may need a trust for can be accomplished without having a trust. So it just depends. If you're trying to avoid probate, there are ways of titling your assets properly so it does avoid probate, certain assets, etc. But there are things that a trust would make sense to have. So it just depends on what it is specifically you're looking at gaining from having a trust, and then we could help answer that question further. But great question.
Okay, Mark, you got time for one more question here?
Sure.
Emily in Tubac says, when should I start focusing less on growing my money and focus more on protecting it instead? I plan to retire in 2 years, and market volatility makes me really nervous.
Well, Emily, great question, and hello to Tubac. It's a great area. If you're only 2 years out, you probably do want to have some of your money protected. Doesn't mean you need to get out of the market completely, but you need to figure out how much you're going to need. We talked about budgets earlier, how much you might need in retirement and how many years you're going to be retired, depending on what age you are, and projecting out life expectancy, inflation, all these sorts of things, and then figuring out if you have enough and that sort of thing. So it's important. You're within 2 years, so it is important that you should be doing some type of planning. If you're working with someone, make sure that they can run a plan for you. If not, we're happy to have that conversation with you and show you what that would look like. But again, within 5 years, really, it's important to make sure that you're really reevaluating your goals and objectives and how much you have, and looking at the risk and all these different pieces of the puzzle that you have going on with your financial future. So I would say you should definitely be seeking somebody out right now.
Man, I love getting these questions. We have good questions today that came in from Oro Valley and Tucson and Tubac, and haven't heard from Tubac in a while, and certainly good to hear from all those folks. And if there's somebody out there right now who would like to come into your office and have a conversation about their own individual situation, I'll give them the phone number to call in just a moment here. But what happens when they come to your office? What can they expect?
Sure, Ron, and just kind of talk about like what you said, as far as we've had some great questions. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to ask those. If you have a question that you'd like to hear on the air, just go to our website, which is savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Click on the media tab, and there's a place to submit your question, and maybe you'll get to hear it on the next show. So now is my chance to ask you a question, since I've answered your questions. And here's a simple one, and can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I get it. I'm as much friends with so many of my clients. They become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? And I'll repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and risk and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews, but hopefully it's more frequently than that? Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If you are, if all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601, or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Did you write down that number? I hope so. But if not, here it is again, 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. You can call that number and leave a message, or you can just send a text to that number. Just leave your first and last name, and Mark will get back with you. You can arrange a time to come in for a friendly conversation about your situation. There's no obligation at all that goes along with this. It's not going to cost you anything, and certainly it'll be a very informative get-together. The number one more time is 520-333-7601. Call or text. Great questions that came in today on the request line, and great topics of conversation today, Mark. It's been fun, and I hope that you have a great week, and we'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Ron. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen. Be safe out there.
Join us again next time for the next edition of Saving with Silverman.
Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.